Old Hollywood captivated the world with elegance, sparkle, and unforgettable screen legends. But behind the glamorous facade and bright lights, the private lives of many stars were tangled, complex, and hidden in secrecy. Some of cinema's most famous icons were involved in relationships that resulted in hidden pregnancies, unrecognized children, and mysteries that lasted for decades. Unlike today's celebrity culture, these stories were not public spectacles or headline news. Instead, they were quietly concealed, discussed in hushed studio conversations, and buried beneath carefully crafted publicity narratives. Yet with time, concealed truths inevitably come to light. Forbidden relationships that were once skillfully hidden have now emerged, revealing the long-forgotten sons and daughters of Hollywood's brightest figures. This exploration uncovers the lesser-known legacies of Golden Age celebrities, children born from love, scandal, secrecy, and heartbreak. These stories go beyond forbidden romances, touching on themes of identity, loss, emotional conflict, and eventual understanding. One such story connects Hollywood royalty with British aristocracy through a daughter who spent years discovering the truth of her origins. Allegra Houston grew up surrounded by fame and artistic influence, believing she belonged to one of cinema's most legendary families. She was raised as the daughter of iconic filmmaker John Huston, a dominant force in film history, alongside siblings Angelica and Tony, immersed in a household known for shaping cinematic culture. Her childhood unfolded across family homes in Ireland and Mexico, blending creative freedom with bohemian living. To her, John Huston was not only a legendary director of classics like The Maltese Falcon, but the man who guided her through life as a devoted father, giving her no reason to question her place in the family. However, beneath this seemingly perfect upbringing was a hidden truth. During a separation in the early 1960s, her mother, Enrica, had a brief relationship with British historian and aristocrat John Julius Norwich, which led to Allegra's conception. After Enrica's tragic death in a car accident in 1969, Huston knowingly chose to raise Allegra as his own child, despite not being her biological father. This decision became the foundation of her identity, as she was loved and treated equally among his children, never suspecting otherwise. Years later, fragments of truth began to surface, and Allegra eventually discovered that her biological father belonged to an entirely different world, British nobility rather than American cinema. The revelation deeply unsettled her, leaving her caught between two powerful identities, one rooted in Hollywood legacy and the other in aristocratic heritage. Seeking understanding, she turned to writing, documenting her emotional journey in her memoir Love Child, a memoir of family lost and found, where she explores her origins, the loss of her mother, and the deep bond she maintained with the man who raised her. Her story is not one of betrayal, but of healing, acceptance, and reconciliation. Today, Allegra Houston has built her own career as a writer and editor, creating a legacy shaped by clarity and self-understanding, reminding the world that family is defined not by blood alone, but by love, loyalty, and presence. Not every Hollywood legend managed to separate private life from public image, especially during the intense scrutiny of the Golden Age. Ingrid Bergman, one of cinema's most celebrated actresses, experienced a dramatic fall from public grace, not due to artistic failure, but because of a forbidden love that resulted in a child outside of marriage. Famous for films like Casablanca and Gaslight, she was admired for her authenticity, intelligence, and timeless beauty, resisting Hollywood's pressure to conform and cultivating an image of dignity and integrity. Her private life was carefully guarded, reinforcing her public persona of elegance. That image collapsed in the late 1940s when she began a relationship with Italian filmmaker Roberto Rossellini while both were married. Their affair shocked the world, especially when Bergman became pregnant, and their son, Roberto Ingmar Rossellini, was born in Rome in 1950 before their marriage. The backlash was severe. She was publicly condemned, criticized by political and religious figures, denounced on the U.S. Senate floor, and effectively pushed out of Hollywood. Once adored, she became a symbol of scandal. Instead of retreating, she rebuilt her career in Europe, later marrying Rossellini and having more children, including Isabella Rossellini. Unlike many stars who had such truths, Bergman remained open about her son, standing firmly by her family despite ongoing criticism. Years later, she returned to American cinema, won an Academy Award for Anastasia, and gradually restored her reputation. By her death in 1982, she had reclaimed her status as a cinematic icon. Her son Roberto chose a private life in Italy, shaped early by controversy he never chose, yet ultimately lived on his own terms. Her legacy became not only cinematic but moral, defined by honesty, resilience, and courage. Another powerful story belongs to Gypsy Rose Lee, a performer who mastered fame and notoriety through wit and burlesque artistry, transforming seduction into cultural influence. Behind her confident stage presence was a fiercely private woman who made difficult choices, including hiding the identity of her son's biological father. Her personal life was filled with complex relationships, and after marrying actor William Alexander Kirkland in 1942, her life appeared stable on the surface, but struggled beneath career pressures. During this time, she had a brief affair with director Otto Preminger, which resulted in pregnancy. Choosing secrecy, she raised her son Eric without revealing his true paternity, naming him Eric Kirkland and publicly attributing his birth to her husband. For years, the illusion of a traditional family remained intact, but rumors eventually surfaced. As Eric grew older, inconsistencies led him to question his origins, and the truth eventually emerged. Otto Preminger was his biological father. Though the revelation added complexity to his identity, Eric later embraced his heritage, understanding the pressures his mother faced in a male-dominated industry. Gypsy believed controlling the narrative was the only way to protect her child until he was strong enough to define himself. Eric later became a writer and filmmaker, documenting his journey in his memoir Gypsy and Me, offering an intimate portrait of life with a famous mother and the emotional process of uncovering hidden truths. Though his relationship with Otto Preminger remained distant, it was eventually acknowledged, bringing closure rather than reunion. His story stands not as a scandal tale, but as a reflection of social pressures, secrecy, and survival in old Hollywood, a powerful woman making impossible choices to protect her future and her child, and a son who later reclaimed a history once buried in silence. The legacy of Wyatt Russell begins another chapter, showing that while many stars hid their truths, some modern Hollywood families chose openness instead, proving that honesty can build unity rather than scandal.